All right, there we go. The minute is over. So, welcome everyone to the Serendipity College Esports Forum live stream here. I am with Aaron, who runs Team X Element, and honestly, we've had some great conversations already ourselves, but I'm excited to bring him on the show and just kind of discuss today's topic, which is player buy-in and really how to build that within your teams and your programs. Because if you can't, get people to buy into your vision and your mission and feel part of that team, it's hard to make that sustainable or build longevity. So, Aaron, welcome, man. Why don't you go ahead? We'll just start by telling everybody a little bit about your background, maybe how you got started in esports, and really what led to starting Team X Element.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Great honor. And a little bit about X Element. X Element was built on a dream or a vision, and it really came to uh, perspective, or to put that into perspective. It was a dream that, hey, one day I want to do something in the esports world. And a lot of times we don't have like that support group or or let's say family members or just even friends um, to what I guess it would be like a support group to push you further that would believe in you. And that's why X Elements, our motto pretty much is believe in yourself, be you. And that became very real to me when I had to make a decision in my life that I was okay with the direction that I was going with, and when nobody understood why. And in esports, there is a disconnect between an older generation and a younger generation, and it's okay for that. Uh, it's all right if you go in a different direction that people don't understand, whether it's your family or whether it might be teachers or or even when it comes into relating of the esports inside of schools. So with that, I it empowered me to believe in myself, and that's how X Element was really born, was out of that one moment where I was okay with myself, and then everything's just started to kind of line up that way.
Yeah, that's really cool. I think that's a good point on for kind of the entire industry. It's okay to be you, and it's okay to do something different. And I think as esports has grown, it has from the top down. We always talk about top down versus bottom up, and we always support this grassroots type movement. But if you start at the top, you're trying to force everybody into what your vision of it is, and from the bottom up, it allows the community to build the vision, right? And and so I think that's right on that line of, hey, like, just be yourself and let's build it around what we want as these gamers, these individuals, and as we've kind of seen, versus forcing everybody to do it a certain way. And um, I think that's an important lesson almost for a lot of these coaches or directors in the university environment to say, how can I let these students be themselves, and also create this team dynamic, and compete and things like that. But again, leaving the person who they are and helping even empower and grow that person, help them lean into themselves. So I think that's a really good message to kind of put out there. What was your kind of intro into video games growing up?
I would say I actually have written about this in some of my college courses, and that's when my
Yeah.
dad he ended up bringing an Atari system home from a garage sale, and from that moment, playing tanks or combat on the Atari, man, I was hooked. So it was always having maybe Atari, and then like the Super Nintendo, and then going to the 64, and then when Nintendo kind of failed, and after the GameCube, then
The game.
kind of switched over to the Xbox and really got competitive into Halo 2. And for me in Halo 2, like that's when Ninja just started streaming, Nick Merckx
Sure.
and in that scene. And I seen myself that I could do that. And I had all these plans. And then the support that I didn't have was just parents that didn't understand what the future of that would look like. And
Sure.
that it put me into a different direction of life. But then I full circled and kind of come back into the esports world.
Yeah, man, and that it's always interesting, right? How you kind of started out and with this idea of what gaming and maybe streaming was. and then like you said, you came full circle, and now you're running more in this team environment and building an organization. So how do you think this kind of movement into this organization building is it what if you were to ask yourself 10 years ago what you'd be doing with esports or something like that, would you have understood then what this is now?
I think I had that vision. I knew like Justin TV. I was following it. I was watching stuff on there. I was like, man, I could see myself doing this. I actually had plans. Uh, Back where I lived, we had an extra building off to the side. I was working on it to actually put like a gaming studio together. But then,
Yeah.
and this was back when I was like 17, 18 years old, and that dream just kind of fell through. And now I'm full circled, and I'm chasing that dream harder than ever now.
There you go. Well, that's cool. So tell us, just for the sake of the audience too, what maybe a little more about XM, what teams you guys have, how the organization maybe started, with like maybe the first team, how that started, and I know you mentioned in our conversations things about your goals of expanding even beyond esports. So yeah, kind of talk through that process of here was the
Okay.
first team, here's how we kind of started, here's what we do, what we play in, and where we want to go.
So for the start of X Element, I started getting competitive, and that was right after that decision. That was a pivotal moment for me. Was me joining the military, and even though some of my family members and friends are like, "Why are you doing that?" I was okay with that decision, and me chasing that decision came back full circle. I came back from basic training, and my roommate at the time, he's like, he bought me a gift, and it was a golden PlayStation and Slim
Oh,
edition. So he got me hooked into Call of Duty and started playing that. And I started becoming really competitive, prestige mastered everything. And
yeah.
this game, Fortnite, came out, and I laughed. I thought this thing was the dumbest, cartooniest looking game. And then I seen Cypher PK
Yeah.
building these trap houses, and so I was like, "You can put traps in here. You can trap." And I got hooked. I got so competitive. I ended up qualifying for FNCS 8 seasons in a row. Didn't make it very far in there, but we still qualified for those qualifications. And I saw all these kids that had great potential. And I was like, they're getting skipped over, or they're not putting that energy to better use. And I was like, what a better way to form a team and to showcase this talent. And that was kind of the birth of the idea of X Element. And our first team, I guess, would have been uh, Fortnite. And I think we
Okay.
had one placement of a top 33 in a no builds tournament when that first came out, even though we all like to build. And it just
I'm
kind of
terrible at
started.
it. I can't do it. I can't do it.
It's like chess to me. It's like just putting pieces out there. You got to think a little bit ahead. Um, and then the team just kind of started taking off. Then we had people started asking about Apex, and we had people start asking about Rocket League, and so we just started expanding into the different categories to where I realized we kind of needed staff too at the same time, and that's when I decided to go to Full Sail University, put a little plug in for there for the business game and the esports management program. And we have about 10 people on our staff now from Full Sail. Some of them have graduated from through this brand new program, and some of them are still going through the courses. But with that, we were able to structure a lot more, and that opened up the doors to kind of expand into the FGC or the fighting game community. And with that, that has really, really sparked a huge part of X Element. Where now our last event that we went to was Evo a couple weekends ago, and we put a player in the top 33 in Tekken. So a huge shout out
Right on.
uh, um, to Germ and to ADHD for the recruiting and for getting that organized and putting that out there. But it all comes down to a call to adventure when it comes to having these players come in. And every great story has this call to adventure, and every story has a hero. And you have to make these players feel that they're a part of the story and that they're the hero. And so that's what our staff focuses on is like, hey, we want the players just to play. We want to put them into that spotlight. And that's a little bit of how we get our players to buy into the vision, being a small company as we are.
Yeah, no, I like that. And I think, being the hero, kind of being part of that adventure. I mean, I don't know, you think, back to like this idea of Dungeons and Dragons, right? As a group, we want to take this adventure together. And that's what, a lot of gamers see esports as this ability to form a team, compete, do something together, be a part of this adventure. And I think if you can foster that environment, that's gonna take you a long ways. And I think you guys, from what I've seen and heard, you guys are doing a great job at that. Jordan says hi, by the way, on the chat here. So
Awesome. That's
let me give you a shout
ADHD.
out. There you go. There you go. And I think as we work in the university environment, right? It can be hard because you might be dealing with large numbers of players and students on any given campus, or you're wearing 15 different hats and trying to recruit and coach and build your facilities, or network and find sponsors. I mean, something that a private team realistically would be doing, right? And kind of somebody in your role. And I think a lot of coaches, they like to hear some of these outside ideas and understand what they can do or how they might be able to approach things differently. But we'll go ahead. Yeah, we'll throw up the slide deck, because I think that's a good transition right there, to really how we can build player buy-in, and how, maybe mimic some of the things that X Element is doing. And part of adventure building, and my wife, she might probably love this, but it's the idea of, in literature, and she's a writer and English teacher. But you're taking, it's the quest, right? You're taking people on a quest, and there's elements of a quest that you have to put in, and you have to sequence it, and you have to do it right. A lot of that team building is kind of that same aspect. It's this adventure building. And we say, look, while it has the competitive side here, a lot of these players, especially in universities, they're trying to join something that they can feel a part of. They might want to compete, but more so they're really looking to just be part of a group a lot of the time. And so it's a balancing act, competition versus a social club in a sense. But I think there's a good way to go about doing that. And number one, fostering a welcoming environment. And not neglecting this idea of culture building, and with your adventure, right, that gives you guys this clear kind of mindset, this quest to go towards, right, this adventure to start on, of culture building. What your culture is kind of about in that sense. um and one of the things I think we can ask you guys is on the set number one here. Number one is, if a student, player, or gamer wants to join your program or team, how easy is it to find information? Like, I try to find directors and talk to them all the time. Sometimes I can find no information on this university's esports program, and if I can't find it as this professional who knows the space, you can you can bet these players can't find you guys. And when they walk in, does it feel like an environment that's welcoming? So when you guys are recruiting, or when people jump into your Discord or different things like that, what are steps you guys take to make them feel welcome?
I would believe that being welcoming has to do with your social media outreach also. Like I said, if you can't find it, then how are you going to navigate to it? And then how easy is it to get into the Discord? Is there like a million things that you got to sign up for? Because a player's retention is very small, and they're not going to read anything that's over 3 or 4 sentences. That's something that we have
Yeah.
found out. So making that process easy, and then having a community that welcomes them into the Discord it's huge. And we get a lot of feedback that's like, hey, we've been looking for something like this. And there's people out there. It's just putting forth the social media content to draw them in. And then a lot of it is word by mouth too. So the word by mouth is the players, they do the recruiting too, whether it's like they're playing pubs or different things like that. They might find somebody like really good, and they'll pull them in. So between social media, between word of mouth, and then having a welcoming Discord with a community that is pretty responsive to somebody that's coming in, and making sure that they understand like how the things work, whether it's rules or what roles do they need into the Discord, or what games are they interested in. That has been working out pretty well for us.
Yeah, no, great. And I mean, I would agree. I think it's been working out really well for you guys in that sense. And I think one thing that a lot of universities I've seen, they're starting to catch on, right? And this idea that, like, again, I say it all the time, esports isn't mainstream. And so even on your campuses, you might have started esports, but if you haven't done any sort of awareness campaigns or, educated the general campus about esports, and then, the town beyond you and in your recruiting regions and stuff, like, people don't know you have it. They may not go looking for it in that sense. And so even to do small things like bring your team out, host an event on campus, doing these little things to show people that you're there, but also invite people to play with you. And, again, create this interactive environment where people then want to see more and understand more. And I think you guys do a good job of that, because you can't all, be in person, right? That's a big part of this too. On universities, there's a lot of connection that can happen, but virtually, or, as we're playing in different places and things like that, building that and doing it well is its own challenge in a sense. And, with that in mind, maybe what do you guys do to then maybe foster kind of community or engage with players outside of just practice and, the game itself?
One thing that's a key element, 2X element, is our Sunday meetings. So every Sunday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, we have a community meeting where we just go through, we update all the players, and we have an open forum at the end. So if there's anything that they see or they want changed or an idea, and some of those ideas might be like hosting a movie night, or what do they want? And the thing is if they want to play a game together or for the whole community, we get a lot of those ideas, and then we can put that forth. And the thing is if our ear's not down to the ground, we can come up with any idea that we want, but we want to be able to give them the experience that they're seeking. And so to be able to communicate with them and have that open forum, then a lot of those ideas that we have, we don't even have to think about the ideas. They're telling us what they want us to do. And so I think in any leadership position, you should be a servant first before you're a leader. And so to be a servant, you're going to serve the player, and that's taking what they want, not necessarily every idea, but the general consensus is, if they want that movie night, let's do that. That's something that they want to engage in. That's extra, right? Or that community game night, or a charity fund, or whatever it is that, these ideas that they have, because then that makes them feel important, it makes them feel engaged, and it brings them closer and makes them feel a part of that community.
No, absolutely. And I think, with it, it's one of those things like, look, I can, say that I know exactly what's going to build this or do this, but if you don't, what we would call just focus grouping it, if you don't run a focus group and actually ask people what they think about this product, or, and there's so many brands that don't, working in higher ed, the universities themselves would implement something they think was game changing, but what they never did was ask a single student or recruit about this thing. And it tanked because they all thought it was great, but you didn't ask anybody. And so, like, having those types of meetings and getting that feedback, and not just assuming that I know, and maybe they say the same thing that you were thinking, but it's that idea of bringing them in and having them, talk through that kind of, again, which makes them feel like they belong, but also then, as we kind of go through and we'll talk about it, gives them a sense of ownership of the team. Hey, they're doing things that I suggested and that I wanted to do, in that, and they feel like it's their home in a sense, right? It's that idea of, this is more than just a team. It's a community. It's a group I belong to. And it gives them that sense of ownership, which, just when you do that, they've now got a stake, even if it's just abstract. They have a stake in the team, in the company, right? It's what good bosses do, for corporations. If you can get your employees to buy into the company, the productions go up, like all this kind of stuff. And then, they're always trying to finagle ways to do this, but I think at its core, it's just kind of following some of these simple models that have, worked time and time again. And so, what I know you've talked to me about this, Aaron, but this idea that with Team X element, it's there's competition, but it's about taking, these people, giving them maybe these second chances, but teaching them skills that are transferable as well. And, I always, would always kind of do in my programs was, if a student wanted to learn a different game, they wanted to learn streaming or, kind of broadcasting, any of these things, I would let them do it. I would teach them, hey, you want to do graphic design? Let's put that on these computers. These can be used for that stuff. So you guys can learn these kind of different skills. And What maybe tell us a little bit more about maybe ways that you guys go about that and kind of helping, I mentioned participants in program management here. How do you, on top of that, build these skills and help these players feel like they are, helping you manage, or, even ways with X element, maybe it's even more unique because of the way you've built things out and the way your staff work. But how did you maybe even build that participant and management type feeling amongst your staff?
I would, for X Element, it's if you have a dream and a vision, and you can show me that you're capable of taking that next step to make that happen, then we will explore that idea. So if it's a different game, I'm going to be like, hey, all right, we need players and we need a staff or management staff for that. And if you guys can come up with that and you guys can put it together, then we will expand into that game. So we have an open mindedness of, hey, if you guys want to do something in a different area, then let's go for it. But it takes that organization, and that's where you either see that passion will drive it, or it'll die right there. And so, but we give them that opportunity to explore that idea, and we just kind of come up with the structure. This is what it'll look like. This is how it'll operate, and if you guys want to do it. And for our staff, the same thing. So whether it's like social media or let's say community management or any of the other roles that we have, we look for people who have that drive, and we try to put them into that position just so they can get the experience. We see staff members and players come and go every week to every month, just depending on what they're doing or if they find a new job or something like that. But we're very versatile in that hey, if you want to try it, let's let you try it. Maybe this is not what you want to be, but this is a great learning experience to take that first step. Because in what part of life would you ever take a child and they take their first step and they fall down and you say, hey, you stupid little kid, you can't walk? No, you don't. You help them back up and you give them the tools or the assistance they need to try to go forwards again. And that's the aspect of whether it's a player or a staff, is like, hey, we'll help you get up and we'll help you get started.
Yeah, I love that. And I think with esports specifically, right? Some of that mindset had just been lost in this chase for, you say chase for glory, right? We want to win, we want to keep winning. And maybe some of that is driven by the fact that, like, if you don't win, you don't get your sponsorships and revenue goes down until to win it means extra revenue. And of course we would all say let's maybe build a different revenue streams to support the organization. And especially at the university level, right, winning is fun, but those kids are there for academics. They're there to learn. They're there for a whole slew of different reasons. And so doing something that empowers that player, saying, hey, we're gonna build you back up, we are going to help you succeed. And no matter if you want to go pro, as Kyle mentioned in the comments, coaches often forget that these players aren't always here to go pro. And especially in gaming and esports, the percentage that go pro, I mean, it's people just don't understand that, again, out of 3 billion gamers worldwide, your chances of going pro are slimmer than any other actual sport, because of just the sheer volume of people that are out there trying to do the same thing. But what you can do is help, maybe if they want to go pro, help them build the skills necessary to do that. But if they want to go into other careers and use esports as that catalyst, help them do that. Provide learning opportunities and experimental opportunities, and give them a chance to try and build something or develop those skills. And for your own organizations, right, that's only going to be helpful long term as you build sustainable structures for your business or your team, because you might have taught these people these skills and they've maybe really grown into it and are great at these things, and then they go, hey, I would love to like stay on longer. And you're like, great, now I have just equipped my own team to be even better. And I think it just, especially if they've bought into kind of that vision. So I think that helps. And again, just that sense of ownership. So, you want them to belong. Let's give them a sense of ownership. And then, after that, after they've really bought into the vision, and even part of that is building support beforehand so they feel comfortable buying in. But they need that support right beyond the practice arena. And with a team like yours, and organization like that, it's just beyond the game. I mean, how often do you see, maybe even in your own like Discord server, relationships that are building right past just the game?
All the time. I think it's growing daily, and when I to dig in on that, I believe that us just being an online team to this year actually going to the Midwest Fest in Kansas City, going to Evo, that those relationships, that in-person interaction, and taking these young guys, young men, and young boys uh, to these tournaments and letting them meet and growing those relationships has only built the team stronger. So there's a team bond that happens there when it translates from just being online to a physical aspect also. And I'm super excited for them, and they have shown, and you can clearly see the ones who are trying and the ones who are pushing it, and that it fuels that fire to the ones who are just kind of riding.
Yeah, I mean, right, yeah, fueling that fire, building those, and watching maybe these players build those relationships, and being able to push that and keep those going is just, I mean, it pays dividends down the road. And I think, that's something a lot of, so all these things we talk about, with these live streams, there's this element of, again, a lot of coaches or directors, there might be only one of them, and there's a lot to do something effectively. You do need more staff, and it's like we say, you need to build support, and you need to build ownership, and you need to build up your local esports ecosystem so that your university thrives in this environment. Like all these things, like this is a lot. And I think that's, what you were just mentioning is something that coaches forget, is that like your players, your team, they they support each other as well. So while you're trying to do things for them in doing something, building relationships with your players, but you may not be able to engage all the time with every single one, and that's okay. But if you build these support systems where they can then support each other, and you build this team culture, like they take care of themselves in a lot of that capacity, and you can always check in and continue to build that. But I think that's important for, yeah, building a healthy culture, a healthy environment. um and I know, right, a lot of you guys are, working on different degree programs and things like that as well. So how have you seen, obviously in the university environment, they're there full time and studying as well with a lot of these programs. So how have you seen the balance of academics and competition play out on a team like this, where it's not under a university banner?
I believe with that, that's why we've clearly separated our staff from our players. Because when the players come in, they understand that the only expectation for them is to play, and that's what we want them to focus because they're the star. They're that 2% of X element that's getting held up into the spotlight, and the rest of the staff. That's why we separated them, and that they are a lot of them, like I said, are in Full Sail University studying, and they can take what they have learned, and since a lot of us are learning the same thing, we can apply a lot of that schooling. And it's crazy how much that just going through the course every week, there seems to be what we're being taught is what needs to be addressed. And we're able to take that as a unit and implement it into X element and just correct what needs to be corrected in that situation. So for the player weekly, they're just grinding it out, going through their scrims, focusing on playing, and the staff are taking our courses and working on the issues of promoting X element, I guess, basically.
Yeah, no, I think that's perfectly fair, and it's, I mean, I think what I found kind of fascinating about it when I'm thinking about it is just this idea that you guys have been able to do this while studying, right, at the same time, and being able to learn from the real life experiences that you're having with this organization. There's a lot of people out there who are just totally against education for esports. People shouldn't be learning about it. They shouldn't be studying it, and this and that. And, it's always like, I mean, I was again, a history guy. I wanted to be an archaeologist, and there's that saying that those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it. And it's just like, we saw what happened with the .com bubble, and you could go back every decade. There's some industry that popped up, and it's a boom and bust cycle. Everybody that jumped in and propelled esports with all the VC funding, they led that exact same methodology, and it was just like, it was clearly foreseeable in that sense how they approached it. and now we're all trying to learn from it and be educated on it, and they're all pushing back, against a lot of the education and degree programs. And it's like, well, you realize like these people that you're learning, right? You guys are actually building something that is different from the model that all these guys tried and broke, right? It didn't work. And so the reason you guys, I think, long term are also going to be successful is because you're building something while learning and educating at the same time. I mean, it's a very researched version of building an esports team, because that's what you're trying to do. And I think that has allowed you guys to experiment. I think if we could take that mentality and again say this is what an educated version of an esports, organization looks like, what a difference maybe that would make for the entire industry. But tell us what would you, how do you, as somebody studying, what would you, promote out there, or maybe some of the benefits or positives to studying about esports?
There's a lot that you just don't know, and to be in a curriculum with people who have experience in the different aspects of esports, whether it's running tournaments, because we've been through courses of just how to run a tournament, to the history of gaming, to there's just so much that it digs in, and it gives you a broader aspect of the different elements of gaming and where it came from to where it's at, and how do you apply these different skills into whether it's social media, to editing, to videography, in those basic elements, and to what a good product looks like, because a lot of it is online, a lot of it is social media. So you do have to have that engagement and an understanding of how do these social media platforms work, what are the algorithms, like what are the requirements for that, because you could just post something on there and you could be missing a potential audience if you're not tagging it right or using the
Right.
correct hashtags. So there's a lot of stuff that go in there, and it gets a little bit monotonous when you're like, well, you got to create 20 hashtags, right? But the thing is they're trying to make a point. And with that, each class, I have found that every single week I go through a class, I'm almost able to put an issue that X element has inside that class and work on it at the same time and be like, oh my gosh, this is what I needed at this very time and space, which is
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. No, I love it. I love that, that's the approach you guys have taken. And honestly, with these values that you and your staff have put into the organization, the willingness to learn from even from mistakes. And I think that's a big one too. Like, we have to just admit when we tried something and it didn't work, and like that's okay. Like you said with the kid, you're not going to say welcome to being a failure, haha. Like, if they're taking their first step, you're going to try to say congratulations, like that was, oh, I'm sorry you fell, like let's get back up, let's do this again. And like that makes you just, honestly, it makes you a better leader. And I think a lot of coaches, that's, again, title of this slide, like, look, we got to be leaders, especially in, as team directors and program leaders. Like, your job is yeah, to coach some video games in competitive natures, but like, you're there to be a leader. And because this industry is new, and I think that's, again, something that's missed by a lot of people, the industry is new, it doesn't have established codes of ethics for leaders and ways to be a leader in the industry. Like, you're building what those standards look like as you're doing the job. And like, you have to step up to that plate and own that fact. Like I said, is it your job? Maybe you didn't think it was supposed to be, but like, your goal is to mentor these kids, to be there beyond just the technical, especially when the industry is early. And you have to mentor players and students in a university environment. There is a lot, I mean, people from just so many different backgrounds. And then I'm sure, again, you've seen it with your team and players. They come from all over the place. You never know what their backgrounds might look like, but you've got to be prepared to build these environments where people from everywhere can come be a part. You've got to be ready to mentor when you're needed, and that's a big part of it. And then I think, right, as you build those habits in that environment, that culture, right, do it consistently. And that's what creates that succinct culture that you guys, I think, at X Element are building towards as well, right? These meetings are coming up, people know when they can suggest ideas to you. They know, that they have a voice, and that they get used to this, and then it builds that momentum. and they want to support, and they want to, again, it builds that buy-in, right? Consistency creates a culture, and culture creates buy-in. Um, and the biggest thing, man, I think one of the things that I honestly had never disagreed with somebody so much. I had a boss at one of the institutions one time tell me, um, because I had said that, look, this esports, I wanted, we were designing this facility one way and we were doing these things, and I was pushing back on the times they wanted it to be open. I was like, we have cameras, we have key card readers, like all this stuff, and I said it needs to be open, during sometimes when I physically cannot be there because these players need to practice and have an environment and things like that. And I said, because really, like, esports, like, this is here for them. It's their facility. And I got shut down right there and said, it's not theirs, it's the schools. And I was like, that mentality from the top. I was like, no, like, this team, this program, like, we're doing this for you guys, like the students, because obviously if you don't like it, you're not paying to go here, and we don't all have jobs. So, like, just from that standpoint, like, but like, the team it's theirs, it's their team, it's not my team as the coach. And that's a common problem that occurs. These coaches, like, this is my team, I have built it. And you're like, you may have done these things, but like, it's not yours. Like, it belongs to these players. And at X Element, you guys seem to really, again, have fostered that environment of, we've built this thing, but you've said it time and time again, the players are in the spotlight. This is, we're basically supporting their adventure as they go through it, and giving them the tools they need. If you had, Aaron, kind of the long term, like, picture of what Team X Element would look like, what do you hope, or maybe when we go shorter term, what do you hope to see with X Element, based on what you're building, maybe within 5 years?
Oh, that's a great question. First off, like you said, like, we have to have a servant mentality when it comes to our management, because we're offering a service to them. It's not just about being in a role or about being the coach. It's about helping these young guys, gals, who have a talent that's being overlooked, and that might be discarded, and it might be something that could benefit them in their life. That's the key. So the the goal for, like, the 5 years, it's not just necessarily hitting big tournaments or uh, uh, having somebody who's a top tier player. It's about necessarily giving enough opportunity, organic growth, into finding these players and letting them write that story. And if we have the teams and that thing, that's great. But the thing is if we don't, and there's not that vision to be like, hey, this is what we want to do, then why are we going to push and drive them to that point? Yeah, we'll encourage, we'll put timelines, we'll put things that we want to achieve out there. But the thing is we really want them to step in and be like, yeah, this is, like, I'm the hero to this story. The reason why X Element is excelling is because we're here. And that's what we try to do, because in growing organically, there's a great documentary out there. It's called At Winning at All Costs. It's about, I think you can find it on Prime. It's about Team Envy. And they just got this huge amount of money, and they were able to set up everything. They had everything that they needed, and they lost 2 games in the LGS, and the funding was shut down. Like, I don't want that. I want it to be long term. I want to have that vision where no matter what, the vision without me can still go forwards. And that's finding these young players and putting them into that spotlight. And it doesn't have to be anything huge, but the thing is when you find that, it translates into, hey, we just went to Evo and we put a top 33rd or top 33rd placement with no funding. We all self-funded everything that we did. And then all of a sudden you find that when they come back, that the drive and the vision is 10 times stronger than what it is, because they didn't realize, like, where they were going to place inside of that. And you see it just spark, and that energy grows, and that organic growth is what is key, because you can just put somebody in there who doesn't want to be there and they might do okay. But the thing is, they're going to come back and be like, well, I just played in a tournament. It was all paid for, you know? But when you
Yeah.
find these people who are investing themselves into, again, I'll reiterate, a call to adventure, and you make these kids heroes and these young adults, and that they understand that there is a dragon out there at the end of the treasure, and that is, how do we get there? You know, maybe we have to work an extra job, or we have to ask friends and family for a little bit of extra money so we can travel to go to these things, and that's the dragon. It makes that reward so much more because we did it by ourselves. I'm not saying that we don't want sponsors and things, because we gladly take them, but the thing is
Yeah,
that,
everybody, they want sponsors.
but uh, to grow organically, I think, is that 5 year vision into something that will blossom and let it form itself. It doesn't mean that we have to try to like think that we have this preconceived idea of what it is that we want to do. The thing is let it form, because the thing is we don't know what's going to happen in 2 or 3 years, because the Midwest is expanding in esports. It's crazy. It's the wild, wild west out here. So there's going to be new tournaments and things. But the thing is, if we have a preconceived idea of what we think we're going to do, it's probably not going to be that in a couple of years, because who knows what partnerships are going to we might encounter, and we might get asked to go to different invitationals if the team is good enough for that. So I kind of leave it open a little bit, but to, like I said, to have that organic growth and to let it blossom into what it is. It's like we have a seed. We're not really sure what that seed is, if it's going to be a sunflower or if it's going to be a corn stalk, right? The thing is we're going to watch it grow and see where it takes us.
No, I love that. And before, I'll give you just a minute to kind of tell people where to go, or, if they want to learn more about the team, or how, what to contact you about. But I think in there was a good, maybe a good question to ask you, would be with a lot of these directors, right? And you mentioned and I think so many of us are on the same level, where build it organically, build the right structures, then you will build something that lasts long term. But everybody wants to go fast, and they want to see, again, such fast turnaround on any investment money, any of this. And universities are now falling prey to this. And there's a couple reasons, right? The enrollment cliff is coming up. The population's going to drop. They're already hurting from the drop in enrollment during COVID and all this stuff. So they are, when starting a new program like esports, a lot of these schools, they want to see instant, hey, we've invested this much, 200,000, whatever it might be, in the program for facilities. We've hired a coach, this and that. And the next year they want you to start now winning, because you can make a name for the college and recruit more people. More people know about the school, right? But they want this initial growth right off the bat. Like that's never been the goal of higher ed. That's never been the mission. And what, I guess the question I would ask you is, what would you, or how would you maybe approach, if you were a college director, administrators, and try to educate them on this idea, or make them aware that, again, we need to build this right versus build it fast, and then to kind of lead them along that journey? How would you maybe approach that?
Yeah, like that. When the money's on the line, it changes the aspect. Like it really does, because then you do have hard points you have to hit and whatnot. But I would say a key piece to being successful in that would be to not necessarily organic, because we have the funding there for it. So what you can do. And I remember, when I say organic, I used to farm quite a bit. There's a couple things that you can control.
Right.
You could always control the seed that goes into the ground. You always could control the condition of the ground, and you always could control the way that the plant is harvested. But you can never control the rain. The rain for us smaller teams out there are the sponsors and the funding. They can control that. So the thing is inside of those elements would be to have a community, because you can control your community, you can control the tournaments that you go to, and you could probably say you could control the atmosphere. And if you could control those three things, then your recruiting process would be a little bit stronger in that sense. Because if they could come in and you find that, hey, there's a player in there that has an attitude that's going to ruin it for everyone, who really doesn't want to be there, but yet their stats were so good, that's the person who you recruited. I'd carefully recruit probably my team. I would probably have, and I've heard this from other people too. I'd rather have four guys that are good and make them great than just one good player, and then that ruins it for everyone. So a lot of it would be
Yeah.
that just being or acknowledging that team structure, and not just for the win, but for that atmosphere. Because those kind of things that happen, you're going to see people's grades decrease because there's going to be stress within the team, and you're trying to do something better to elevate everyone. Because I work with young kids all the time, and their parents will come up to me and be like, "Hey, you know what? Their grades are dropping." I was like, "All right, let's get the grades back up." And I was seeing success in that, where they start having a structure, they start feeling a part. They're like, I need to keep my grades up to be in this, and they become a better person overall. So, I'd say fostering a good, healthy, clean environment, that's going to be really, really key to the success of everything. But we do know some games, they do have a crappy atmosphere that they go in. Like we say Call of Duty, just in general, there is a toxic atmosphere that's there just generally with that game. But the thing is, it's up to us to reshape and rehome what that atmosphere is. And without people taking a step in that right direction, then nothing will happen or ever will be accomplished. It'll just be the same thing repeating itself. So it starts in the small form. It starts with, hey, that director has to lead the ship, right? They have to have those goals. They have to clearly lay them out. And if they can't do that, then it's going to be the players that run the organization, and not the other way around. And that you will get a very not a good balance in there. And I listen to a lot of esports podcasts, when especially I think the one is the Arkansas State University, they put one out, and you can hear about just the players who don't show up to practice, the people who there's a lot of people that get recruited, they're there for the wrong reasons. So
Yeah.
it goes into, making sure that you have a standard and that you keep to it.
No, I mean, I couldn't agree more with that in general. And I think, you know, I want to see you guys succeed. Number one, I just the vision, the mission, what you guys are about. I think that's something that is gonna, should change the esports industry. We want to see it go through that. And I think you guys can easily lead the way on that. And I think a lot of us here and that are watching, right, will want to support that mission as well. Kathy, I know you're listening, and you mentioned, right, get on TV, get in the newspaper to inform everyone in your community. Kathy works with us here with Serendipity. If you want to get in touch with news people about an event you're doing, about your organization, let us know. Like she can do that. We want to help you foster that awareness, so that teams like X Element, right, can lead that charge in the industry, and kind of we want to showcase this change that's really happening. But Aaron, what, if people want to inquire about the team, if they want to maybe even join the team or sponsor the team, what's the best way for them just to contact you? What should they do?
Yeah, you got it up on there. It's teamxelement.com. You can find all our social medias in there and the Discord link. You can also send messages through the website. So we'll be happy to respond about any inquiries that you have. You can also email me at aaronsheltrown@gmail.com. And like I said, we'll get to it when we can. A lot of us do work full time at the same time we're going to school. So we do this when we can. And our vision is, if you want to be a part, then we have a role for you. So.
Love it. And see, they're gonna make a movie about you guys one day, because that's, again, you've got the story, the invention. You're working full time. You're learning full time. You're doing this, on the side, but yet it's developed into this really incredible, I think, idea in this organization. So I can't imagine what's going to happen here in the future with you guys. But again, if you're watching, like, talk to Aaron, reach out, and we'll see what we can all do. And if you need anything, on that front with your facilities, management, consulting, you want to just talk to me about, esports and how we can help maybe improve things, contact us here with Serendipity Gaming. We'd love to see what we can do for you and how we can make you kind of build these environments for your esports programs as well, in a couple different regards. And again, just a huge thanks to the NECC for investing in coaches in this way. We're partnering with them to bring these to you. And hopefully you're finding them helpful, right? We want to make sure it's not just some information that you could get anywhere. We want to provide you with real insights and help you be better directors and program leads. And if you're looking for the next generation of tools to help you do that, hit us up for Fantastic as well. The new platform's coming out in about a month. So we're really excited about that. But esports management, player development, but just a huge shout out to everybody and a thank you on that front. Aaron, it has been great to have you on. I hope you just get tons of emails from everybody and they bother you nonstop about the cool things you're doing. But everybody, thanks for watching. If you have any questions or need anything, feel free to reach out. And if you missed any part of this, you can always rewatch it here on LinkedIn, or ask us for the link. We'll put it up on our YouTube as well. But hey, I think that's about it for the show today. But again, thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you next time.